Well, hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Janice Hooker Fortman with Relationship Matters. I hope sincerely that everyone can see me this evening. I just got a notice from Facebook that says Facebook is having issues and it might not be showing on Facebook. Technology is, you know, I don't know what to say about technology, but we're going to go ahead and hopefully it will show up, and I hope everyone is looking at it. I hope everyone can see it because this is a very, very, very important topic that we are speaking about today. And so I'm just going to go on and people, if you are not seeing me at 7 p.m., the ones who are looking via YouTube, message me on my phone and let me know whether or not it's even being shown on YouTube. So in the meantime, let's go on with the show. Today's topic is all about racism and mental health. According to Mental Health America, people of color and all those whose lives have been marginalized by those in power experience life differently from those whose lives have not been devalued. The experience of racism and bigotry far too often leads to mental health issues. Now, racism is a mental health issue because racism causes trauma. So, let me tell you a little bit about racial trauma. Simply, traumatization that results from experiencing racism in any of its many forms. Importantly, this doesn't have to be one major isolated event, but it can result from an accumulation of experiences like daily subtle acts of discrimination or microaggressions, which we'll talk about later. And as we all know, trauma paints a direct line to mental illness. And racial trauma really needs to be taken seriously. My guest today is someone who is going to speak to this. Her name is Felicia Houston. Now, Felicia has more than 20 years of experience as a licensed clinical professional counselor. She has earned a BA, a bachelor's degree in psychology, and a master's in human development counseling from Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. Now, Mrs. Houston loves educating the masses about mental health and wellness. Her passion lies in inspiring and empowering women to make the agreement for positive change in their personal and their professional and family life. Now, as a licensed clinical professional counselor, Felicia quotes poet and equality legend Andre Lord, who wrote, and I'm going to use this, I'm going to type it and put it in a big sign right above my computer. The quote is, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. So I'm going to bring to you Felicia. We're going to talk about this issue because it's an ongoing issue since slavery, and it's still relevant today. So let me bring to you Mrs. Felicia Houston. Hi, Felicia.
Hi, Dr. Jan. How are you?
I'm doing great, except for I'm not sure if this is going across Facebook or not, because all of a sudden, um, these little red exclamation points
Mm.
came up, and it says we're having trouble streaming to
Mm.
Facebook. This might be an issue on Facebook's end. Then they ask the question, is it possible the stream was deleted? No. Then it says we'll keep trying and let you know if it's resolved. Please check Facebook to ensure the stream looks okay. If this continues for a while, try creating a new broadcast. I don't think so. Or just remove this destination from broadcast, then re-add it.
Okay.
So, considering the fact that I am not techie, I,
I
I know how
understand.
to remove it, but I don't know how to add it again.
Okay. Okay.
So we're going to be talking, and I have a person who I am going to text and 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 ask. This is a techie person, and
Okay.
ask, like, what the heck is going on here? So maybe if we remove it and come
Hmm.
back, I don't want to remove it and it just never comes back. So I'm going to put on
Let me
here.
see what this. Let me see what's showing up on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's saying the video. It's not showing. It says the video ended 2 minutes ago
No, it didn't, because
or
I'm
eight
still
minutes ago now.
broadcasting.
Yeah, it's not showing
I'm
on your page. It's not showing.
I'm still broadcasting.
Hmm.
Isn't this something?
Well, remember what
And
I
the
told
thing,
you earlier that this, technology is our friend on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So today is Thursday, so it's not our friend today.
it sure isn't. Okay, I'm just putting this in here, and maybe he can help. But we're
Okay.
gonna go on because at least is on YouTube.
Yes, and then you can share it.
And yeah, and then right, then we'll just share it out. Okay. This
No stress,
is
right? No
a
stress.
this has never ever happened before. I mean, this is weird. And the thing is, it's something up here that says end broadcast. Well, I'm not going to hit that because then I really will end broadcast.
Hmm.
In the broadcast, and I don't want to do that. Okay. So Felicia, let me start with your journey to what you're doing today. Tell me how you got involved. I know that you went to college, and your major, I guess, was mental health. But what made you decide that you wanted to do that, to focus on that as your career?
Well, I would say when I first went to college, my major was international business with a minor in Spanish. But the first class
Hmm.
I took in international business was so god awful boring that I decided to switch, and I switched to psychology. And I loved psychology, and so I stuck with psychology. But I think when I talk about mental health and psychology and all of that, I think I chose that because all of my life I've often wondered what goes on in people's minds. So in grade school, my brothers and I went to a school where it was predominantly Caucasian, and we were mistreated and called names almost every single day. But we still endured, we still were successful. In high school, I went to Lake Forest Academy, where there were maybe 20 people that looked like me. No staff, one staff that looked like me, and it was not a very welcoming environment at that time when I was there. It has changed a lot, but back then, and then being at Bradley in Peoria, Illinois, which was right next to Pekin, they still had signs up that said we were not allowed in their town after a certain time. So all of that affected my mental health, and it affected all of our mental health. So I think that's why I kind
Right.
of went into the field to determine, to figure out how to help people that look like me to show up into spaces that are not very welcoming for us.
Okay. All right. And so now you're focusing on racism and mental health. Now I know that I would think, I'm assuming that previously you mainly worked with women and their issues. So did you find that as you were counseling women that a lot of their issues came from was a result of racism or not?
Yes, I would say that a lot of it, not just in counseling, but just in supervising. So I'm the director of a department of psychiatry at a hospital here in Chicago. And just in all my positions that I've had where I have supervised or managed people, when I'm doing the supervision with the women, it's especially women that look like me, it's very different than when I would do the supervision with the white men. The white men, I give them a plan, they would execute the plan, they would ask for more money. And then when I would talk to the women that look like me, they didn't feel that they were worth it. Why should I ask for more money? Why should I pursue any other opportunities? And then when I got to the root of it was because of racism, because of biases that they've experienced, because of past experiences. They didn't want to take those risks. They were afraid to take those risks. And then you mentioned earlier about the microaggressions. I hear a lot of women talking about the microaggressions in the workplace, especially when they're in a workplace that is not is majority, they're the minority in that workplace. So they have to deal with the microaggressions. They don't want to appear to be the angry Black woman, things of that sort. So I see a lot of that.
And so I guess you would call that kind of like internalized racism,
Yeah.
where you devalue yourself. You feel less than, so to speak, because of things, experiences
Mhm.
that have happened to you. So when we're talking about microaggression in the workplace, give us some examples.
So I would say that microaggression could be in a workplace where someone is like, well, why are you, that's a different hairstyle you have, or, I like your hair straight, and you have your hair natural, and yeah, those little microaggressions. Or one lady told me that someone told her, I didn't realize your lips were so pink inside because of the color lipstick. Yes. Because, so I don't, that's pretty blatant, but they were making it seem like I'm just making an observation. This person was dark and she had on some bright lipstick. And that was something that someone said in the workspace, or people, can I feel your hair? No, you may not. Your hair was short one day and now your hair is long today, so things like that, but not expecting you to answer, or to get upset by it. And then if you get upset by it, then you're the angry Black woman. So I usually try what I have learned even since high school was to use those moments as teachable moments so that I'm not perceived as the angry Black woman. In high school, we had diversity conversations in the girls' bathroom. So at Lake Forest, I
Okay.
lived on the campus in the dorm, and every Thursday at 6 o'clock, we had conversations in the bathroom. And the white girls asked us questions and we asked them questions, and it helped us to live together because I had never lived with a person that didn't look like me, and I'm assuming they had never lived with a person that didn't look like them. So it was a learning experience, but the school did not prepare us for that. It was nothing in place to help us, to have those conversations about race.
Okay. Okay. So, while you were talking about micro um, I'm really all discombobulated. And I said I wasn't gonna get
Microaggressions. It's
I
okay.
said I wasn't
Facebook
gonna.
threw
I'm
you
not
off.
giving any technical. Wait, earlier I said, "Oh no, I just flow with it." But this is like what?
We're
My
flowing.
audience
We are
is
flowing
on
with it.
Facebook. But anyway, okay. Um, um, well, when you were talking about that aggression in the workplace, as far as racism is concerned, I started thinking back when I was doing, I'll say a 9 to 5. And I'll say this before I became an educator, because when you're an educator, it's different because you're in the classroom, you know,
Exactly.
by yourself. But working in an office situation, um, uh, and I worked at a hospital, and you would be passed over, or
Yes.
you would make a suggestion about something, and
Hmm.
just kind of passed over. And I remember uh, this one woman said to me, as a matter of fact, she was my supervisor, and she said, Janice, I really love the way you dress. You dress better than any of us. And then she grabbed a hold of, I think it was a shirt, I can't remember, a piece of my clothing, and she felt it like this. And and she says, "Oh, you must spend all of your paycheck on your clothes." And I just kind of looked at her. You're like, "What?" So I can I can understand when you talk about microaggression in the workplace. But then there's also that microaggression that's not in the workplace,
Hmm.
and just in everyday life, like being in a store, not necessarily an upscale store, but a
Any
store,
store.
and
Hmm.
you look around and you see the security guard following you around.
Following you. Everywhere you
You
go, they
know,
follow you.
yeah,
Can I
yeah,
help you? Can I help you?
yeah. Thank you. And which is, when I was younger, you would just get kind of flustered or something, but getting older, it was, I would turn around like, can I help you? Uh, you know, um, and you think about just the different things that happen. If you're walking down the street
Hmm.
and say it's a white person crosses the street, um, just
Yes.
all kinds of little things that are not
Little subtle
aggressive.
things. Yeah, little subtle.
Yeah. Look,
If you don't pay attention, it's subtle.
if
But
you
I think
don't,
it's big. It's not subtle to me anymore. And I would say that something that happened recently. We were talking earlier, and I was telling you that I'm a runner. So I was at a park recently, running on a path that is for running. And I noticed this woman out there that I've seen several times, and she's a Caucasian woman. And she wears all white, and she wears this big old white hat, and she has this big red purse in front of her. Okay, that's what she has every week when I see her. I saw her this time. I'm running, and as I approach her, she grabs her bag. And so I'm thinking, okay, Felicia, you're overreacting, just ignore it. And I'm running around in a circle. So I run again and I get close to her. She grabs her bag. I watch when the Asian man runs by her. She does not grab her bag. I watch when the Latina runs by her. She doesn't grab her bag. And the third time when I run by her, she grabs her bag. And I was just like, lady, I'm just trying to run. I don't want your bag. It's not even a cute bag. If we're going to be honest, it's not even cute. And what am I going to do with that big old bag? It's huge. So just little things like that I think people don't realize that affects our mental health. When all I'm trying to do is be healthy and run, and someone is grabbing their bag like I'm going to steal from them while I'm out running on a path with running clothes on. Like, why do we have to even prove ourselves? So that's another conversation.
so when we talk about mental health, and you talked about that experience, talk about how that makes a person feel. you know, uh,
Hmm.
because mental health is really about the way you feel, the way you look at yourself.
Right. And I think the big thing about mental health is how you think and how you feel. And based on what I'm thinking and I'm feeling, that determines my behavior. And so if I'm
Right.
thinking that I'm less than and I'm devalued because of the experiences that I've had in America, then that makes me feel a certain way. But then that also makes me behave in a certain way where I am afraid to take risks. I'm afraid to speak up in meetings because I'm often ignored. So all of it is connected, but I think it takes us being strong people, and to start the healing so we get to the point where we are able to be in those spaces and able to speak up if they listen or not. But it takes time. It doesn't, it's nothing that happens overnight. But I remember feeling that way in school, in grade school, in high school, in college. I don't think I started speaking up until grad school. When I got to grad school, I was like, you know what? I do know some things. I am smart. I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna say it. And if they don't like it, so what? I don't care, because I just stopped caring at that point about what other people thought. But you're right; it does affect. If you keep experiencing that over and over again, you're traumatized and you're re-traumatized over and over and over again till you're just silenced and you just fade back and you're just ignored.
And I think that's something that people don't understand, um, especially when when they'll say something like, "Well, like get over it." Um,
Yeah.
and the thing is, when you talk about microaggression, uh, and I'm just going to say racism and stress, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and trauma, it can be direct, meaning
Mm-hmm.
it direct the aggression or whatever it is, the action affects you personally. But it can also be indirect, that can
Yes.
cause those kinds of feelings. And
Yes.
I'm thinking about here recently in this city of Chicago, where a 60 something year old woman and her 87-year-old uh, a partially blind husband were arrested for uh, suspected bank robbery. And what? And so I'm not going to say the name of the bank, but it's a bank that they frequent all the time.
Mm.
And it just so happened, I guess they had left the bank, but a young man, a black young man, between the ages of 30 and 40, they said, had robbed the bank. So now you pulled over this older couple, handcuffed them, arrested them. So now when I think about it, the feelings, it didn't happen to me personally,
Right.
but the feeling that I got was more than, oh, this is horrible. They did that to those people. The feeling that I got again was that feeling of stress caused
Mhm.
by this act, which they said was purely racial because, I mean, they're black. And they were pulled over. And so then I started thinking, oh wow, you know what? Going into a bank, well, what if I'm in a bank and a woman robs, or I just left the bank and a woman robs the bank, and here they could pull me over. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
In other words, the feelings that we get, that people really need to understand, is that it is a cumulative thing
Yes.
of experience that have happened to me and us,
Hmm.
um, over years. and
Yes.
and, and one of them is, and I thought about this, when right before the show, and I thought stress, and I thought, you know what? If I'm in a car and a police car pulls up behind me.
Mm,
My feeling is not, oh, wow, you know what? I'm being safe because they're right behind me. That's not my
mm,
feeling. My
mm,
feeling is stress. Like, I, oh, wow. Now, why is he behind me? Especially if they stay behind you a little while. Why is he
mhm,
behind me? I haven't done anything. Oh my God, I hope he doesn't pull me over. Let me make sure my hands are 10 and
mhm.
2, you
Right,
know.
right.
I mean this whole thing, and you get this feeling of stress because you think, because of past experiences and others'
Mhm,
experiences, that they're not behind you, just because they're behind you. Then you start thinking, you know what? I bet he's running my license plate. I don't have any tickets. Why is he behind me anyway? And it affects your mental health.
yes. It
You
affects your
see what I'm
mental health to
saying?
the point where some people don't even want to go outside. Some people don't even want to drive because of that. And not just because of what they've heard, but just what we've seen in the media. The media, we've seen so many killings in the media that it's traumatizing, and we're traumatized over and over and over again, to the point where many people they were glad that the pandemic came, because they said, I don't have to go anywhere. I could just stay in the house and I don't have to even think about any of those things. Like you talked about the stress that you're feeling when the police is behind you, the anxiety that people are feeling. Like, is my insurance card in here? Is it up to date? Where is it at? Do I have make sure I keep eye contact? It's a lot. And they could just be pulling you over because your tail light was out. But it's not the same. Like, I'm not thinking they're here to protect and serve. No, I'm not. I'm not
Right.
thinking. And those of us who have sons, you have a lot of anxiety. My son is 14. And now I'm like, oh, he's gonna be driving soon. So I have some anxiety about that. Will he do the right thing? Son, don't drive fast. Son, be careful. All of those things. So yeah, it's
The
it's a heightened
talk.
anxiety.
This is you have to have the talk.
Yes. Yes,
So how,
exactly.
Felicia, how do you think this affects young people, like children, racism and mental health? How do you think it affects them?
So I've heard what I've seen, and just with my children, and then in working with children, I do a lot of work with children in schools and things of that sort. What's interesting is that the younger generation, they don't really see this race. They don't. They were like, we don't see race. We don't really see it, but they have parents who do. And so I see a lot of the young people saying that they are experiencing high levels of stress because this younger generation is standing up and saying what is going on is wrong. But then they have parents who are saying, no, there's nothing wrong with this. The police are just doing their jobs. It's nothing wrong with this. So it's causing a lot of animosity within the family. Because people are on different sides. So that's what I'm seeing. But that affects you mentally, because this is your family. You don't want to feel like an outcast in your family. You want to fit in, but then you feel like right is right and wrong is wrong. So
I never thought about that. You know, um, um,
yeah.
what I'm wondering too is, like, if you're a child, uh, and let's say you're in a classroom or you're in a situation, and you are singled out because of your race. How, how do you think that would make how do you think that makes a young child feel?
Okay. And I would just share for me. I remember being in fifth grade, and I remember being at a school that was predominantly white. I remember in that classroom, one, two, three. There were three of us. And I remember the teacher she never said anything about, that it was because I was Black, but she treated me very differently. To the point that one day I remember being in social studies, and this was in fifth grade, and I'm almost 50 years old now, and I still remember this like it was yesterday. And there was a boy behind me, and we were doing social studies, and he kept on saying the N word in my, like, right behind my, yes, and he just kept saying it over and over and over and over. I think he said it probably 50 times. And I tried to ignore him for the 50 times. I think I did ignore him. And then I couldn't take it anymore. And I turned around and I slapped him. And I slapped him so hard that my fingerprints were on his face. And the teacher came directly to me and she screamed and she was, get out of my class. This is unacceptable. You people, blah, 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 blah. You know, and as a child, you know, I felt hurt and so many other things. But it took those other kids speaking up and they were like, no, Miss So-and-so, you're wrong. He did this, this, this. And then she went and told the principal and that young man was suspended. But after that, I was like, oh, I know exactly how you feel about me now. So now I'm not going to be talking about learning. How am I going to learn when I know how you feel about me as a Black child? And I had to tell my parents, I was like, yeah, she doesn't like me. You know, she doesn't like me. And I as a fifth grader, I said, and I don't like her either. So can I please go to another classroom so I can learn? So that affects children's learning. You know, when they have teachers who have biases and things of that sort, it affects your learning because it's hard to learn in that type of environment. When you know that you're not, they didn't want us there. They had signs out there the day we arrived at the school that they did not want us there. So that's hard. You're supposed to learn and excel and learn new things, you know, but we did, but it was hard.
Yeah. And as a young child who really doesn't really understand, I mean, it's hurtful. Yes. And like you said, that was in fifth grade and you remember that, yes. You know, and what happens a lot of times is you got over it to a point. You know what I'm saying? We right. Get over it to a point, but it's still a stronger person. Yeah, but it's still there. And for you, it made you a stronger person. But for some people, they end up where they feel so less than, so devalued.
Yes.
That and it has affected their mental health and affected even their physical health. But Felicia, I'm going to take a quick commercial. Okay. And we will be right back because we have a lot more to discuss with Felicia Houston. I am so upset. I don't know what to do with Facebook. Good God Almighty. Okay, we'll be right back. Well, we are back. If you would like to advertise on the show with some eye catching videos and increase your visibility, please contact us at 1 877 667 7325 for details. Or you can email me at janfornow125 at gmail.com. Or if you would like to be a guest on Relationship Matters, email janfornow125 at gmail.com. Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Felicia Houston. Welcome back, Felicia.
Thank you. Good to
Welcome
be
back.
back.
So now, I still have a few questions. This to me is a very, very important topic. But I want to ask you this. What is the worst mental health issue that you've had to deal with because of racism?
I would say suicide attempts, because it had been so it was so bad for some people. Just the taunting, the mistreatment, the feeling devalued, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, suffering from symptoms from depression, and then it just getting to the point where they feel that it's just better if I just take my life. And so I would say that that is the worst. So for people that are experiencing this, to realize that it does affect your mental health, and you may need to talk to somebody to talk through it, because it does affect you. And I think many times as a people, we just say, just we'll be okay. We're strong. We are, but strong people get help. Strong people ask for help. So I would say for people to get help, because it can be overwhelming and it can lead to suicide.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's horrible. It's really terrible. So what do you think? And is there a correlation between the mental health issues caused by racism and physical health issues?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I would just say, if you just look at it in general, just for mental health, when your mental health is affected, it affects your physical health, and vice versa. So if I have hypertension, or if I'm experiencing stroke, or if I get a diagnosis of cancer, that affects your mental health, because how now I'm thinking, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What am I going to eat? How I'm going to tell people, so all of it is intertwined. So with the racism, and if you're just, I'm just using a work environment. If you're in a work environment, or as a child in a school environment, a lot of people want to send their kids to better schools, and that's great. I know you want them to get a quality education, but think about that child who's going into that school and they're taunted every single day because of the color of their skin. Learning is probably not taking place, and their mental health is affected by it, and physically they may be complaining of headaches, stomach aches, racing heartbeat. All of those are physical things that could be caused based on from the racism that they're experiencing every day. So you want to pay attention to those things and not ignore them. And like I said, maybe get them some help, some professional help, or maybe it may be time to go to a different school, or to go to a different job, where you are valued. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about adults, and so you wonder sometime now. W- our race is known for having a high incidence of hypertension, and
Mhm. Cancer.
cancer, high cholesterol, and all that.
COVID-19, everything, everything
Yeah,
you
right.
know,
COVID,
we're
right.
up there at the top.
Right, 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 right. And so when you look at this, it's like, okay, uh, I'm just going to use me as an example, but I don't have high blood pressure. But let's say I have high blood pressure, and um, so now, of course, being ill, it's going to affect your mental health.
Mhm.
But now, let's say that I don't have the best health care because maybe I can't afford it. And so now that's piled on. Then I go to a doctor who does not treat me the same as he would treat another patient. Now
Mhm.
that's piled on. So now you have uh, racism affecting my physical health, which in turn is affecting my mental health. And it's
Exactly.
it's a vicious cycle that
Yes.
that people really are not aware of. And I'm really hoping that what we're talking about really opens some eyes and opens some ears. You know what I'm saying? So that instead of, oh well, it's just like this, just get over it, but to really be concerned about it,
Mhm.
be aware about it, and be educated about it. But I do have a question here. Why isn't, and you might not be able to answer this, but just tell me what you think. Why isn't there a push to have free mental health from the
Mhm.
government to solve most of our societal ills?
That is $1 million question. I will
It's
tell
a
you my
million dollar
thoughts.
question.
That's $1 million question. I will answer that. But before I answer that, I want to go back to something you said just a minute ago about
Okay.
going to see a doctor and being mistreated and how that affects your mental health. How it also affects people is that's why a lot of people don't go to the doctor. So when you don't go to the doctor and you finally do go to the doctor, that's why when you go to the doctor, you're at stage 4 cancer or you have breast cancer because you haven't been to the doctor because the last time you went to the doctor or the last 4 times you went, you were mistreated and you were treated differently. Like I can still remember in college going to the doctor, I had a lot of pain in my abdominal area. And I remember the doctor saying, well, maybe you have an STD. And I said, what?
Oh, Jesus.
Where did that come from? And what happened was I ended up having 7 fibroid tumors. But he was so nasty and like he looked down on me like I was just a piece of dirt. It could have deterred me from going to the doctor, but I was determined to find out what was wrong and I was determined to not go back to him. But that's not everybody's story. So now your question about the government and free. And so this is my thought on that. Mental health is a business. This is a business. And I know this because I've worked in the hospital settings for years. I know how much we charge. I know how much the insurance companies charge. I know how much money they get per patient per day, how much the doctors get. It's a business. So I don't think that they are interested in that because this is a $1 billion industry. That is my thought. That's my theory. And so as long as people are sick, you keep the doors open. So I think it's up to us as the providers, those of us who know to apply for grants so that you can get some of those free the money so that you can offer the free services in the communities where it's most needed. Because the communities that really need it, there is limited mental health services in the areas that need it the most. Like there are other areas where there's tons of resources, and then there's other areas where there's very limited resources. And unfortunately, those are communities that look like you and I.
You know, I read some stats about incarcerated young men. And as far as men of color, there's a higher level of mental health issues than it is for
Yep.
young men who are don't look like you and I.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so now, yeah, right. And like you say, in the communities that need it the most, there aren't enough resources. Also, when you look back historically at the young men and how they are have been brought up, not, I don't mean by their parents or anything like that, but I'd say the environment that they're in and what they have experienced has caused these mental health issues, which often can lead to aggressive behavior,
And Dr.
which
Jan,
can lead. Go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, to take it a step further, Dr. Jan, I used to have a position as a systems administrator for the mental health juvenile justice program. For that position, I traveled to all of the prisons in the state of Illinois to do psychological testing. And I was amazed at how many men, young men in those prisons had mental health issues that were not being addressed. I started to look at the Department of Corrections very differently because I thought that it was supposed to be about rehabilitation, and that's not what I was getting from them. But as a result of us doing, we did a 5-year longitudinal study. We created a program called the Mental Health Juvenile Justice Program, where services were offered to them once they came back into the community. So that was the good thing about it. But you're right. I would say I had an office in the judges' chambers down on Hamilton.
Hmm.
90% of the people who showed up to court looked like you and I. And the other 10%, they had adequate representation. And most of the time, they didn't make it to the Department of Corrections.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Now
But
that's, oh my
our
goodness.
young men were showing up, and they were showing up with symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety, anger management issues, all of those things. But when there's a system that doesn't treat you fairly, like how can 90% of the people there look like us? But yeah,
Right.
but none of their
Right.
mental health, a lot of their mental health issues were not being addressed. I know it has changed since then, but I'm sure in the
Hmm.
Department of Corrections, there's still a lot of people in there who are not they're not getting the treatment that they need. So what's going to happen when they're released and put back into society? They're probably going to
It's
reoffend, and then you're going to go back, and it's a vicious cycle. So,
it is a vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle. Uh, what I'm uh, uh, I guess I would say not happy about, but more pleased about, is that you and other people are addressing the mental health issues that are caused by racism, because I think that's something that's just been overlooked. I mean, I have even overlooked it, to tell you the truth. And that how it really affects your mental health, you
mm,
know. Uh, and I know my husband would always say, you know what, um, psychological services or counseling services need to be free, for everybody, not just for people who can afford to go to a therapist, or who can afford to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist, but for everyone, because I'm sure, and I'll say this, in everyone's life, uh, there's a time when you really need to talk to somebody. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? And if it's racially motivated, if your stress, your anxiety or your depression is racially motivated, you really, really, really need to have the resources where you can talk with someone about it. Um, I gotta do one little brief self promotion,
Okay.
and then we'll be right back to wind this up. So we'll
Okay.
be right back.
Okay.
so happy that your relationship with your daughter has improved. Well, that was a little self promotion. And you saw my book, The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. Because I am an adult daughter, aging mother relationship coach. Now, that's the most important relationship you have in the world. It's the very first relationship you have. That's the relationship you have if your mom is still with you, if your mom has passed, even if you never knew your mom. So if you feel that you would like to talk to someone about your relationship with your adult daughter or with your aging mother, or you know someone, contact me at janfornow125 at gmail.com. That's Jan for now, JAN, the number 4, NOW, 125. Can't forget that 125 at gmail.com. So let's get Felicia back. We only have a few minutes to go. Felicia, what can we do? What what can a person do to learn to cope and to build some resiliency to protect their mental health? What can people do?
That's a great question, Dr. Jan. So I would say the first thing that we can do or an individual can do is to be honest with yourself, to not ignore it and act like it's not affecting you. Because I see a lot of people who say, it's fine. Yeah, I don't care. And it's like, no, you do, because you bring it up every day. So you do. So stop pretending that it doesn't matter. And then pay attention to the signs and symptoms, because there are signs and symptoms. Like if every time when you go to that place, your stomach is hurting, your head is hurting, you feel nauseous, it is affecting you. But then I think being honest with yourself, that I may need to go and talk to somebody about this. And like you said earlier about services, there are services available. And I agree with you that services should be available for free, but they aren't. And so what I will say is invest in your mental health like we invest in our hair, our nails, our makeup, all of that. We invest in all those things. So invest in your mental health, because your mental health is more important than any of those things. And then look for quality mental health services, because it's not about quantity, but it's about quality. All therapists are not created equal. Some people do not know what they're doing at all. So, do your research, Google the person, check out the reviews, and then ask people, hey, I'm looking for someone. Do you know anyone? But I think being honest, but also being open and honest and having those conversations with people who don't look like us, because some people that don't look like us don't know. They don't have a clue. Any opportunity I get to educate, I take that opportunity to educate, because some people just don't know. So those are some things that I would say, stay informed, stay engaged. But then like during this time with the trial that was going on with the George Floyd trial, to protect my mental health, I couldn't watch the entire trial because it was I was re-traumatized. So I would say protect your mental health, minimize the amount of news you watch. Certain social media outlets, it affects your mental health when we're talking about racism. So you have to know what you can take, and when to cut it off. So those are just some things that I would say. And then like I said before, get some help. There are a lot of professional help out there. If you have private insurance, check with your private insurance provider in regards to behavioral health services. You can ask for an African American. If you're Latino, you can ask for a Spanish speaking person because they have them in their directory. So, but get some help because racism does affect your mental health because it causes trauma. So don't ignore it and act like it's going to go away because it's not.
Right. And if people want to get in contact with you for your services, how can they reach you?
They can reach me. I'm on Facebook as Felicia Houston. I'm on Instagram as Felicia Marie Speaks. And then I see the website is going across. And I also have a stress less coloring book. It's called Stress Less, Live More. You can find it on Amazon because I do believe that you have to have some coping skills. You know, when you're having all those stressful things happening, you have to have some other outlet, like running, dancing, singing, coloring, that could be very therapeutic. So make sure that you have some things in your toolbox to help you when you have those stressful times.
I saw your coloring book and I thought, oh, wow, you know, that's great. I might have to get that myself so I can color. What,
Yeah,
like,
that was just something that was something I created during the pandemic, just, because I had time to do it.
really?
Yeah, it was something that
All
I created
right.
during the pandemic. So yeah, so there's 50 different designs. I've never done anything like that before, but I worked with someone, we recreated it, and it didn't take us that long. So that's what I would encourage you to do, during this time, try some new things, and to figure out how you can help other people to navigate these unprecedented times.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Felicia, for being my guest. And if you're looking for a person who can help you, who can counsel you, go to Felicia's website, order her coloring book, order her services, Felicia Marie Houston.com. Thank you, Felicia, so much for being my guest. I really appreciate it. And you know what? I'm going to find out about what happened with this Facebook because it just didn't make sense to me. But anyway, we'll find out what happened. We'll find out.
Thank you for
But
having me, Jan. I appreciate it,
oh,
Dr. Jan.
great, 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 great. And I'll be seeing you again soon.
All right. You take care, Dr. Jan. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too, Felicia. Bye bye.
Okay.
Well, that was a very interesting conversation, and I hope that you all, my audience, will get a chance to see it. I'm going to make sure that you get a chance to see it. But in the meantime, I want you to remember that there are all kinds of relationship matters. There are all kinds of relationships. And remember, relationships matter. And remember to tune in next week to the Relationship Matters TV show, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. So great to see you. Have a blessed rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye bye.